Everybody, we've got a special treat today. I have Raina Price here with me, who is, I guess, is it fair to describe you as a life coach, an author, a speaker? What would you sort of prefer?
I'm pretty much all of them in one.
All of the above. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Yeah, author, speaker, life coach. Quite a bit, I guess, of words that we could use to describe Raina and all that she does. And today, just to sort of give us a bit of direction, the focus is going to be about stress management. And what a perfect subject for today's day and age, in which I don't know of anyone who is like over the age of 16 that isn't overstressed in at least several areas of their life. So I would imagine that probably a lot of people can find use in our conversation today. So anyway, Raina, thanks so much for joining, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you for having me.
So what sort of what type of stress management would you say you typically like delve into?
Myself being a internal life coach, I teach people about the internal well-being. It is controlling life. It's controlling our existence. And stress is always coming from within. Each and every one of us dealing with stress, we may believe that stress is coming from a situation outside of us, but the truth is it's coming from our internal well-being. So the first stress technique or tip that I would offer anyone is breath. We are the elemental kingdom of life. Just like the earth has the elements, inside of each and every human being is the periodic table of elements. So breath is what houses all of our nervous system. It houses our chemical system. It houses everything. And the first thing that we need to understand when dealing with stress is just take a couple of deep breaths. Get your internal kingdom back in order. Breath is the most amazing chemical relaxer in which we can ever use. We don't have to go to pills. We don't have to go to anything. We just need to use our breath. So that's the very first stress technique that I would teach or show anyone.
And it's funny. It seems so simple, right? Just to say, well, just take a deep breath. But then again, why is the like the mantra of, well, take a deep breath, such a it's such a thing in our like lexicon. It's just so everyone always says, well, take a deep breath. And I would imagine that people say that because everyone forgets to do that, right? It's hard to just stop and go, I should take a deep breath.
Yes. Well, the truth is, if you understand that stress is causing chemicals, it's causing cortisol, it's causing damage to your body. And this is something that most people, when you realize that stress causes damage to your body, the first thing you want to do is have more self-love within yourself and recognize that stress is not doing me any.
Are you still there, Raina? I think.
When you think about your very own well-being first, our well-being is first. So stress is something that works automatically against our well-being. So taking a breath shouldn't be as hard as most people believe it should be when it comes to you being the well-being of life. Without your well-being, what do you have? So that's the most beautiful thing that I can tell anybody. We need to recognize that breath is it's a life savior. It right. is our Lord and Savior.
Right. Well, I one thing that you mentioned that I also think it's a really great point is that the idea, and I'm sort of paraphrasing what you said here, but like that stress is kind of manufactured. It's not so much the situation that occurs. No. It's how we internalize that situation.
Correct.
And it almost seems like that has to be the first step. Like you have to come to the conclusion that, I mean, hey, it's not like this horrible thing wouldn't stress out anybody. Like, yeah, it was a horrible thing that happened or whatever we're talking about. But um, you know, if you have the ability to sort of say stop and just think about, like, you know, how much of my panic or my anxiety is occurring because of my reaction to that thing versus
Correct.
just that thing, that just seems like a very logical first step
Yeah.
to think about that.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't think like that. But the truth is, for me, my very first anything is my well-being. My well-being is what is giving me this present moment. It's my well-being. It's what's giving everybody this present moment is the well-being. So we would take something external and put that before our well-being, and it's automatically going to lead to stress. And that is what is usually causing stress, is that we are not taking more awareness of our well-being before we're taking awareness to the thing that's outside of us. And the truth is that it is our well-being that is going to cause the stress in the first place. It's how we react to it. That's part of our well-being as well. So
Right.
it doesn't matter how you want to go about it, it's still going to come back to the one to the one understanding.
Yeah. Why do you suppose that is? Like, why do you suppose people are so, I guess, like, I don't think ignorant is the right word, but like, why do people not tend to pay attention to themselves? And they're so, and I'm absolutely one of these people, by the way. Like, why are we so focused on all the external things and so, like, I don't know, not incapable, but we just find it so difficult, or it's such a, you know, a waste of time, I guess, to just focus on ourselves. Why do you suppose that's so tough?
I just authored and published a book called Understanding the Matrix Within Internal Earth. And that book is kind of, well, it's all talking about how we're in a stimulated program and we don't recognize this. Everything that we've been taught, everything that we've learned has been external. And yet we're all, as a human being, we're all internal beings. Nothing we're taught is ever about our well-being. We have a whole humanity, a whole society, a whole collectiveness teaching a whole reality and a whole physical understanding and a whole mental understanding and a whole emotional understanding outside of our very own truth, our very own well-being. And that's the only reason why, because we don't teach ourselves as being an internal being, we teach ourselves as being an external being. Our first reaction to anything is always external. It's never about the well-being. It's never about being the cellular being of life. We've taken our whole concept of life and we've taken it outside of ourselves. Now we're in this stimulated program where we have no control over our own well-being anymore.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I suppose, is that like, not, it's, you know, it's not like our parents' fault, right? Because
No.
like their parents before them taught, you know, we all sort of teach, you know, as children, the same.
What I want to call it is a generational, it's a generational downfall. I don't believe that it's intentional. I just believe that we haven't come to the proper mind state to realize that we couldn't house ourselves outside of our own housing. We just haven't come mentally to that state of being or that comprehension or that understanding. Science hasn't gotten there either, but being internal, our mothers taught us this beautiful truth. We're born inside of nature. We're not born outside of nature, and nothing that we learn is internal, but we just haven't got to the understanding where we learn ourselves as being a cellular nature. And to understand yourself as a cell or as an internal nature means that we recognize that everything from our birth, everything from our conception has always taken place from within. And that's how we need to govern ourselves as internal, because once we start doing that, sickness, stress, all those things in which we are utilizing right now to cause us bodily harm and to send defects against our well-being will continue to take place. But I know that breath is internal. I know that stress is internal. I know that everything that even my reality is internal, but yet I'm not taught about this. This is something that I had to take years. I had to become my own doctor, my own biologist, my own scientist, and I had to become my own living testimony in order to be able to share these things, because
Right.
I was dealing with chronic pain for a long time. And I had mental illness from it, to be honest. And I had to find a way to, I just told God, I can't do this anymore. Either you're going to help me or I'm out of here. You know, it got to the point where it was debilitating my well-being, my life, my happiness. It was like, it was destroying me. So I had to learn how to understand myself on a better level of understanding in order to get to this understanding. And it's a beautiful, I mean, it's corrected, it's auto-corrected everything about who I am. It's not stress to me anymore because I think about my well-being first. I
Right.
think about myself first. And it's not something that we intentionally have done. I just believe it's something that we haven't mentally evolved to a greater understanding to understand ourselves better as an internal being versus an external bubble. I call it a bubble. We're living in a matrix, and we
Right.
don't even realize this. We're living in a real matrix, a stimulated program in that we're creating, that we are
Yeah.
literally creating against ourselves.
Yeah. You know, it's funny too. Like, I often think about that kind of thing. Like, when I think about it myself, I think about it in terms of like autopilot. I think, you know, am I
Yes.
thinking on autopilot today? And what are the things that will shock me out of autopilot? And like, for me personally, sometimes it's certain like certain hobbies or certain like creative things, or and especially I notice it when I travel. There's
Uh-huh.
something, and I don't think it's true with everybody, but maybe for a lot of people, when you travel, it's easy to get sort of knocked out of that autopilot, and you can, I don't know, it's like you're more observant, you're more appreciative, you just have this much more wholesome perspective, especially like when you go and talk to people that are different from you, and it's like you have that realization of like, oh man, like these people and me are not really that different, and you know, they kind of look at things the same way. It's just that we sort of structure things differently, or whatever. But I think about that a lot, like how often are we just on autopilot? And I think for most people, they're on autopilot, if not all the time, like most of the
Yes.
time. And you're just sort of going through the motions. It's hi, please, thank you. No, I wouldn't like fries with that. And it's, you know, it's like this, like you said, it's like you're just stuck in this way of thinking. And I find that, you know, when you can shake that out of you, you do tend to be like a happier person. I don't know if this like correlates with what you're talking about, but it made
Yes,
me think of
it
that.
does. And that's how I used to be the same way. I used to react to everything. I would react to everything. I was so dramatic. I still am now, but I'm dramatic with a happiness.
Right.
But I would react to everything because my environment, the environments that we grow up in, they change us. They alter us. And sometimes like my environment was not a healthy environment. So I had a lot of triggers. I had anything could trigger me. Just somebody having a bad attitude would trigger me. And I think we're on autopilot mostly all throughout the day because we're not aware of ourselves as internal beings. That is just the only truth. And this beautiful truth will set each and every one of us free. Yes, it's going to take us some time to get used to this understanding, but when we just come back to the one factor that it is our well-being that is the most precious source of living, is not anything external. It's our well-being. And when we get to that one understanding, my well-being is more precious than gold, silver, money, anything external, then we'll stop being on autopilot and we'll start taking the present moment as something very beautiful, something very life-bringing, something very life-altering. And then we'll be more conscious and aware of what is really causing the stress. And we won't need stress management techniques. We won't need any of those things anymore, because we will be in our nervous system. Our nervous system will automatically do exactly what it was created to do for us, and that is to release chemicals that keep us happy or keep us from having triggers.
Right. So I think we probably got off a little bit on a tangent. That's probably my fault. It usually is. But we were talking initially, we were talking about like breath management, taking a deep breath. So I assume that this goes beyond just, hey, take a deep breath, right? I mean, or does it? I mean, can you maybe speak a little bit more about that?
It's just about taking a deep breath. Your elemental kingdom breath is it's a relaxer. It's a relaxant. We don't need any chemical outside of just the breath alone. We're all one with this one breath. This one breath is it's giving us life. So why wouldn't it give us anything we ask for? I mean, this breath is literally giving every human being life. So, and it's also allowing us to share this life with each other. So why wouldn't it give us peace? Why wouldn't it give us joy? Why wouldn't it give us happiness? Why wouldn't this same breath that's given us life give us all the fruits of the earth, of nature? So it's just that simple concept. It's just, I take a breath for body, one for body, and then one for mind, and then one for soul. And usually there's automatic calmness. I mean, it's just that simple. It's nothing, there's nothing you need to know outside of, I'm calming first, I need to calm my body, because that's what is really, it's reacting to a situation that's external. But the truth is, the only thing that can calm that stress is my internalness. So It's not anything that we have to figure out. It's not nothing that we really need a life coach. We do need a life coach now because we've come so far away from our understanding. But the truth is, once we get to this understanding, it's like our whole internal mechanism will start taking over automatically in doing it for us. It's when we get out of autopilot.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the goal, right? It's funny. It's like just like taking a breath. I mean, the idea of, well, just look at it this way. Like, it seems so simple, but I would imagine, I mean, like, you probably get hired and there's a lot of roadblocks between a person who thinks a certain way and that person who maybe eventually thinks like, oh, okay, hey, it's not such a big deal. It'll be fine. Like, it's not so easy to go from one perspective to the other, right? I mean, it sounds easy, but it's probably you have to work at it.
So can I just do this with you right quick so you can see, so you can
Sure.
understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So take one deep breath in through your nose,
Mhm.
and then when you're blowing it out, blow it out through your mouth. And you can just go, ah. Now, what do you feel from just that alone?
I'm gonna do another one real quick.
Okay.
I mean, more relaxed.
Automatic.
Definitely more relaxed.
Yes, it's automatic. It goes down into our lungs,
Mhm.
where all the stress and the tension is being held in our chest and our stomach. And it's an automatic relaxant. I mean, it's not as hard as we believe it is. I mean, just taking a simple breath is an automatic relaxant to our system. It's part of our nature.
Right.
It's something that we are supposed to do as being internal beings. I mean, so it's nothing that I can't really answer your question, because the question is, it's our living truth. It's something that we can do at any moment to heal, to even heal our body, to send a good chemical relaxant through our body at one present moment, just a simple breath. It's not anything that I can try to explain. I just would have to tell everybody, just take a breath.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Just take a breath. It's made for us. It's made for us to be relaxed. It's a part of our nature.
You know, it's also kind of timely that we're talking about this because so we have, my wife and I have she's about to turn 3. And so like we've been completely in the thick of, you know, a 2-year-old. And like, you know, all the cliches about toddlers are 100% true. Like she's
Yes.
just and so we have this book, Little Monkey Calms Down. And it's all about, you know, little monkey is holding an ice cream and like loses his ice cream and he's just completely like, he's just going crazy. And it's, you know, it's like 5 pages. Then each page is, you know, little monkey, you know, do this, and, you know, and it's, of course, it's like, take a deep breath. And so now, because she loves that book, what we'll always tell her when she gets upset, we'll be like, hey, what would little monkey do? Little monkey would take a deep breath. And so we've kind of like, that's become one of our things. Like we've really, and she gets it now. So now, like if I say that now, if we say like, Ellie, like you're very upset, what would little monkey do? And she'd say, take a deep breath, and then she'll do it. So it's like, I feel like we're getting, I don't know if this is an early start, but I feel like we're trying to reinforce, you know, holistic, you know, kind of stuff like you're talking about.
Yeah, she'll be great by the time she's 5 years old. She'll be a peaceful state of being because she's learned that at a very early age. And that's a beautiful thing that she's learning that. And that book is a beautiful testimony that they're teaching that to the kids at this age, you know, and that she's being able to utilize that as something that's really fun to her right now.
Right. Because little monkey, you know, it's entertaining. She loves it.
Yes.
I was wondering, do you think that like the whole idea of like, you called it sort of being in the matrix and I called it kind of being on autopilot. It seems like kind of what we're talking about is this like lack of connectedness maybe to other people in the world around us and that kind of thing. And I was just wondering, do you think that that's a bit of like a Western thing? You know, because it seems like older, I don't know, more like ancient cultures or more Eastern cultures. I don't know if this is the case anymore. Like, I think probably everybody is inundated with all the stress and stuff nowadays. But I always get the impression that, like, for example, like the Buddhist cultures, they seem to have a better handle on that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a different sort of perspective or something that those cultures have over us.
It's different because they see themselves as the internal well-being versus the external. Western culture, we don't teach, we only teach our understanding external. That is something we've learned from outside of our mother's womb until this present moment. That's all we've been taught. But Eastern culture, Buddhists, they all understand that they are the creator. They understand themselves as internal nature. That is part of their culture. That is something that they teach when they are in the womb and when the baby comes out of the womb. It's part of, just like we learn, let me see something that we might be able to learn in our Western culture. We don't learn that breathing is a part of our nature. They know that breathing is a part of the nature of the human body. So we learn nothing about our human nature. We learn about the body, but we're human beings. And a lot of us don't realize that a being is existence. We're not taught that we're a being. We're just taught that we're a body. And yet the body is taking its own understanding from the being. I mean, it just is. But if we don't understand ourselves as being, all we can understand ourselves is what is taking place outside of the being. But really, the being is what is controlling even the external.
So
we've lost control. We've lost control over our own well-being to the point to where we don't even recognize that our own breath Our own breath is a relaxant.
Right. Right. Well, it's like, yeah, maybe it's like, I don't, and I don't think most people think of breathing. It's just this automated thing that kind of happens in the background. I mean, as it should, right? But like, it's just sort of this thing that happens, and we don't like appreciate it. And I don't think we look at it as like a medicinal. It doesn't have any purpose apart from just keeping the body working. Whereas maybe in those Eastern cultures, and I suppose maybe that has something to do with why yoga maybe comes from like India or something, is because a lot of it has to do with like breathing and meditation and that kind of thing. Maybe they look at breathing as more of a like a proactive tool or a skill, and we sort of just think of it as like, yeah, I don't know, I'm breathing, whatever, like, let's get back to work, or something along those lines.
Well, I just say, come back to the truth. And Jesus said this, the best of the truth shall set us free. The truth is that our breath is giving us life. It gives us life. So if a breath can give me a relaxation before a pill, we're taking in external chemicals that are altering our chemical body. And breath is an automatic relaxant. What it does is it takes your chemical body back to its natural state of being. So it's like we have to choose the red pill or the blue pill.
You love the Matrix.
Yes, I do. Which one is going to honor your well-being better? Is it something that's going to come inside of you and then alter you? Or is it something that's going to come inside of you that you can use that's natural inside of you and bring you back to your regular state of being?
Right.
It's like, it's a choice. We have to learn how to choose. And the best way that I can say this, and I'll just keep going back to it, is without your well-being, there's nothing. I mean, there's literally nothing without the well-being. It's given us the opportunity to talk, to hear, to be here and experience life. What is more important? Is it your well-being, or is it something that you have to take that in as a placebo, just as a placebo? I mean, this is just the truth. We're taking chances anytime we take something from outside of us and bring it into us. We're taking chances, but we have something that's beautiful as a breath that does no harm to us. And it automatically takes us back to our natural state of being. I mean, I would want to choose the one that's natural.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
for sure.
At the beginning, and at the end, we need to come back to our right state of being. None of us living as an external being is in our natural state of being. And that is just the living truth. No one can deny what I'm saying. We're all being altered by being outside of our own natural state of being. And when it comes to anything, we must ask ourselves, what comes first? What comes first? Because without this well-being, we have nothing but something that's going to automatically alter us. It's going to automatically alter us. And the truth is, it's so simple, just being in your natural state of being. It's really simple. And when you come to the point where you just have to say, I come first. I come first. Because the minute that I don't, now I'm stressed. Now I'm altering my chemical state of being. Now I'm altering my well-being. Now I'm altering my state of mind. And that's just it. I come first. And in the Western culture, we don't come first. We put our jobs, we put everything before our well-being. And then we wonder why we're sick. We wonder why we got all these pharmaceutical companies and pills and poisons, and it's God have mercy over our souls, because we need it.
Yeah. And you know what? Another thing that's interesting too is like, I think maybe some people might look at, like, when you talk about taking care of ourselves, or we come first. I think it's important to clarify that when you say we come first, you're not talking about like, well, but I am working hard to get a promotion at work and I am trying to make as much money as I can. Like that's like a different type of selfishness, right? Like that's you're talking about stuff that works, that will benefit you, but only, like you said, in that sort of external context. It's not benefiting you, like, I don't know, holistically, I guess is the word I'll use. Like it's not benefiting you from the perspective that you're talking about. It's like two different ways of looking at it in terms of like doing stuff for yourself.
No, the truth is, there's only one source of nature, and it's consciousness. And this is where we have to come to a better understanding. That same consciousness is what gets us the job. That same consciousness is what gets us up every morning to do that job. Now, we're taking that consciousness, now we're taking it outside of its own ability to do those things for us in its natural state. Now we're going out there in the world and trying to do it against the consciousness that's already supposed to be doing this for us. So that's where the stress comes in. That's where our well-being is no longer the factor any longer, because we've taken that consciousness. Now we're using it outside of its own ability to do it naturally for us. So it's still doing the external and it's still doing the internal, but now we're outside of it being under our control. And that's why we have to go out there and work so hard to have that state of mind that we believe that we get through a job, or that state of happiness that we believe we get through having money. We've taken our whole natural state of being and now we're like self-punishing ourselves, and we can't even get this really beautiful comprehension of what we're doing to ourselves. Life doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. We make it hard because we don't give the natural state of being, or the natural state of our consciousness, the right to just govern us according to its state of nature within us. It's already doing those things for us, but now we're going out there and we're making it harder. And this is where the stress comes in. But our consciousness is going to do that regardless.
Right. So
Just
so
regardless,
it sounds,
it's going to do it.
so I'm really interested in what you just said, and I'd like to try to maybe clarify that a little bit more. It sounds like what you're saying is that, like, having a job, in theory, like, let's not focus on what the job is specifically, because we could probably spend all day on that, but like having a job and a purpose can be good and fulfilling and useful to oneself, but there's like a threshold out there of, am I doing this to where, like, the motive for doing it has become, I don't know, something else? Has the motive become...
It's become a suffering. I could say it's become a suffering. God gave us, each and every one of us, being the body of life, each and every one of us is the cell, and we are the living body of life. Every one of us, we came here to give life a reality. So that means that each and every one of us, like, I have a beautiful understanding. One of my gifts is I can understand the internal nature. I didn't, growing up, I had a very hard time understanding why we did things the way that we did it. It just never made sense to me. Everything contradicted itself, like everything. You want me to do this to be happy, but it doesn't bring happiness.
Right.
And I didn't understand this at the time because I was too young, and no one teaches us internally. So I had a very, very traumatic life, a very hard childhood, because I can understand everything I understood was internal. I just couldn't comprehend why we were doing things the way that we did it externally. To me, it caused a lot of pain. It caused people to do things that hurt other people. It just was so much suffering. I can see the suffering, while most people, they just can't see it because they're so conformed to that
Right.
way of thinking, that way of understanding, that way of being. But to me, I saw abuse. I saw everything that we were doing as a collective whole as just abuse. It caused me so much mental illness. It caused me so much traumatic. It caused me a lot of pain because I just could see life totally different than most people can see it. Because I'm an internal being. Somehow that part of me wasn't conformed like the rest of the world. They've been conformed from just having their own natural state of understanding. And I
Right.
don't know how that happens. I don't really want to know how it happens. I love being who I am. That's what makes me who I am, just being who I am, not trying to be conformed to a system that does not work for me. That system, it contradicts everything that it tells you that it's supposed to be doing for you. I mean, it just contradicts itself. It makes no sense.
Right.
But most people can't see this because they're so conformed to being an external being, but yet I know my own biology. Every human biology is internal, and we must govern ourselves as that in which we are. We're not external. Our parents, our mothers did not even create us externally, but yet our whole comprehension, our whole teaching, our whole understanding is something that we just made up. We just make stuff up as we go along, and we have this beautiful, we have this beautiful natural state of being that will guide us, that will lead us in every correct direction that we needed if we understood this. And our DNA proves this. Just that you have a DNA proves everything that I'm stating, but yet we still want to live as suffering before we would live as our own beautiful peace of mind.
Yeah.
Because the cell is the mind, and it knows exactly what it needs to do. It made us, it made an ear, it made a mouth, it made us talk. I mean, the cell knows exactly what we came here to do, but yet we're taking our understanding from something that we just made up. We literally made those things up.
Well, you're obviously you're a very empathetic person, and I think probably not. People have empathy, right? But there are some people that have a lot more, and it sounds like you're definitely one of those people. And so it might be easier for you to feel a lot of those things that other people can't, and maybe that's why
Yes.
people would hire somebody like you, is because they just it's like a foreign language to them, or they're just not in tune with those types of things, or like you said, they got so inundated with that sort of external way of looking at things, and then I don't know, 40 or 50 years went by, and now it's like, well, God, how would I even begin to become this more like empathetic person? I think I might have lost you, Raina. We'll give it a second here. Are you still there, Raina?
I am.
Okay. Yeah, I think I must have lost you for a few seconds there.
Yeah. Well, I call it a biological reboot. That's how I help people understand the matrix. I call it the matrix. It's funny, we all have a little understanding of the matrix. It's not to say that the external way of being is bad, but it contradicts your own natural state of being. And that's something that it's a beautiful understanding if you can get your mindset on your great well-being instead of just a belief. Because basically our understanding of the external world is just a belief. We made it up as we went along. But inside of us, we have a beautiful biological understanding, which will lead us back to our DNA, which literally will lead us back to our DNA. Our DNA is what has given us life. It is what has given us comprehension. It stores our whole history of life. It stores what we should be doing as a human body. It stores what we should be doing as the mind. It stores what we should be doing as an internal being. I mean, it tells our whole history, our whole story. So that's where I come in as a life coach, and as an internal life coach, I'm able to help people see their biological state of consciousness versus the belief system that has governed us,
Right.
and really governed us in complete suffering. I mean, it's people right now that fight me. I mean, they're so against what I say, but the truth is, this is biological. This is your truth. This is your nature. This is something that can automatically auto-correct the altering that has been done to you.
I was just going to ask you, like, you must have clients that just go down like kicking and screaming when you try to talk to them about certain things, right? Because I mean, I would imagine it's not always easy.
It's not. I mean, let me correct myself. It is.
It looks like we're having some connection problems again. Let's see if we can get Raina back. Hi, Raina. Can you? Oh, you're muted again. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, yeah. I guess we're having some connection issues.
Oh, no problem.
But oh God, what were we just saying?
You were asking me, do I have a hard time relaying this understanding to my clients?
Right. Do they fight you? Yeah.
They don't. They want this. Majority of us all want this. Deep down in our soul, we're seeking something. Each and every one of us being taught externally, we're missing something inside of ourselves. And that's the soul. It's the soul's emptiness. It's the soul's part of never being our friend, or never being able to communion with us. So everybody that I go into life coaching with, they've been wanting this. They've been needing it. I've gotten people who write me letters afterwards. I've gotten people who tell me that they've been with therapists for years and years and years and have never gotten the type of healing that I'm able to give them. Because what I do is I'm internal. So what I'm able to do is I'm able to understand what the soul wants and what the soul needs. Each and every one of us, we're no different. No human being is different. We all come from the same source, and that is the cell. And that cell has a memory. And inside of that memory is what each and every one of us need to evolve as a cellular being, not as a body, but as a cellular nature. That's our nature. And it doesn't differ from any culture, any race, any religion, because we all are one living cell. And that's where we've like, what I tell you, the external world has taken us and it has defiled us in so many ways.
Right.
that we don't even have a beautiful understanding that we are all one.
Right.
And our soul knows this best. Every one of our souls seek the same thing. It doesn't see us. And this is what I'm able to get my clients to understand. I get them to understand themselves deep down inside of that wanting and that needing and that discovery that they've been wanting all of their lives, but they can't comprehend what it is that they want or they need, but they know that it's something that is needed. And I help them discover that. So I don't have a hard time. Because once I get in front of them, it's just like taking that deep breath. They're like, Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That is what it was. I just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. So maybe like, what are some of the things that people like approach you with? I mean, do you see any like consistency? Certain types of people, certain demographics, certain jobs, anything like that? I mean, who are the type of people that you typically talk to, and what kinds of things did they come to you with?
Most of them are, they have a lot of childhood trauma. They have a lot of childhood trauma. They have, and that is bled off into their adult, into them being adults now,
Right.
and into their relationships and into their jobs. It's just something, it's really the soul. You know, as a kid, we just believe that these things are supposed to be happening. We believe that that's the way our parents told us, this is just the way it's supposed to be. And then they've come into this conformity where they just believe, I should be in this type of relationship because this is the relationship that taught me. And most people that come to me, they're people who need just life's healing. I can't say it's anything, it's all childhood, because in each and every one of us, we are all still children. Our very whole well-being has been stunted by us going out and seeking our well-being outside of our own nature. Each and every one of us that live externally, we're just kids inside.
Mm-hmm.
We're children right now in our state of being. Now, in our mental, in our physical state, we might be adults, but in our mental state of being, in our internal state of being, we're just kids. Inside of us, we're still seeking that love. Inside of us, we're still seeking that peace, that patience, that empathy, that compassion, because we don't get that in the world. We just don't. And this is something that most people can't comprehend until they get with someone like me. When they get with someone who has this greater understanding of all it is that your soul has been deprived of its own nature. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful realization once you get to understand it on the level of your own, very own nature.
Yeah. Are you still there? You still there?
I am.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder what's causing these little lag spikes. I was just trying to see if maybe it was on my computer, but I don't think so. Do you usually have connection problems, or maybe it's just
no?
Zoom today?
I'm staying fine. I can still hear you when you're talking.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah. So I guess it sounds like just people from all walks, I guess, would typically come to you. Just anyone that's kind of had trauma or maybe PTSD on some level, and maybe
Right.
they're not aware of it.
We're all walking around with PTSD and we don't recognize that as being an internal being, and everything that you've been taught is external. That's post-traumatic stress.
Right.
I mean, we really need to come to this beautiful understanding, because it's life altering. Most people believe that people who go to a therapist are the only people who have post-traumatic stress, but the truth is every external being has post-traumatic stress. Number one, you've been taken out of your own environmental nature. Mm-hmm. We do not know who we are. None of us truly know that we're a cellular nature. I mean, have you ever been taught that you're a cellular nature?
No.
Yeah. You know, what is the root of a cellular nature? What does a cellular nature need to do to live prosperously, or to live abundantly, or to live in peace? We have this, that's our whole nature. Our whole nature is abundantly, it's peaceful, it's relaxing, it's conscious, it's pure consciousness. So just imagine what we are going through, being internal beings, and now we're in a whole, we're alienated from our very own, our own understanding. That's
Yeah.
post-traumatic stress at its
Yeah.
root.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because I feel like every one of these podcasts, we always somehow end up on the discussion of like social media and that kind of thing. But it seems like it's so unavoidable. And I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about here is like, we just can't appreciate ourselves because we are constantly threatened by what is either slightly or significantly better in whatever way, right? Like there's always somebody who's better looking. There's always somebody that's better at this. There's always somebody that's better at that. And I wonder, like prior to social media and prior to the internet, we still would have to deal with stuff like that. But I don't think we had to deal with it nearly at the level that we do now, where it's like you're just constantly inundated with like how much worse you are than other people. Again, thinking externally, and thinking materialistically. It's like there's just, I mean, who wouldn't go around thinking like, man, I'm just why, like I am not special at all,
But you are, because you're a cell. You're the most specialist thing that nature or God has ever created. I don't hold myself on the standards and on the levels of anything outside of me. Right. I mean, I would always fall prey to not being good enough, not being beautiful enough, not being that person or this person, because that's something that lives outside of my true nature. And the truth is, I'm nature. I mean, what can be greater than being nature? What can be greater than being pure consciousness? What can be greater than being life? There's nothing. Right. I mean, there's no look, there's no like, there's nothing greater than who you and I are as just being a cellular nature. I mean, we're the greatest gift to life itself. And God made us greater than animals. He made us greater than any creation so far. And we would still want to hold ourselves less than the beautiful truth that we are. And that's what I always have to come back to at every present moment, dealing with an external population. I always have to come back to my well-being. Right. I come first. Always. I have to come first, because if I don't, I can't come first in that world. It's too much competition. And these people are competing to be less than they are.
Right. Right. You're a very you're a very appreciative person, it seems like. You really appreciate things. Is that, would you say that's accurate?
Yes, I appreciate everything because we're amazing. We're amazing. Why wouldn't I appreciate this amazing? I mean, we're so amazing. I mean, each and every last one of us, we're the most beautiful as creators, creation, consciousness, awareness. I mean, we're amazing. I have no choice but to be appreciative to what nature did for you and I.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've like you said, you've come a long way, to be able to have that perspective. I wonder, like, do you have, I mean, you must still have some things that trigger you, right? Like you're like the rest of us on some level sometimes, right? Like certain things annoy you, right?
What triggers me is myself. It's just me. Sometimes I get back into that, taking that pill, mm-hmm. that external pill. But the truth is, I'm the only person who can do that to myself. So it's not like it's really not what I would call a trigger. It's just me. I have to just come back to my own living truth. And it's, sweetheart, why would you want to be in that situation when you have this most beautiful, blessed situation, just being who you are? So the trigger is sometimes just knowing that I live in a collective body that does draw me back and forth sometimes. But the truth is, only I can do that to myself. It's only my internal nature that's going to create that trigger. And that's what helped me come back to this beautiful state of being that I have. You know, I do get triggered, but the truth is only I can trigger myself. So why would I do that to myself? That's self-abuse. It's literally self-abuse what we are doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
On every level that you can eat at its root. There's no other root to self-abuse, but you just not being the state of being that you were created to be.
Right. And people are walking around, fully, happy to abuse themselves. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's I think that's the funny part. We're all doing this to ourselves.
I mean, teaching other people how to be that nature.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I mean, this is so much more peaceful. It's so much more loving. It's so much more compassionate. I choose not to be in that state of being. I choose not to be. It's like it has to become a choice when you get to this understanding. It has to be a choice.
Do you like tell when you're talking to your clients about things that might like distract them from, like looking within, what types of tips or tricks, do you have things like that? Is like, hey, listen, limit yourself to X amount of phone time per day? Like, I mean, do you do things like that? Is that part of your conversation?
I really don't tell people to, everybody does what they do because it brings them happiness or it brings them some type of peace. Mm-hmm. It's not true peace, but it's a peace that they won't be able to get unless they go internally. So I just tell people to just be conscious, be in the present moment so you can really understand how you're truly feeling. That's it. You don't have to stop doing anything external, but truthfully, how is it making you feel at this present moment? Is it making you feeling good? I just try to tell people to stay in the present moment, and it's called body awareness. That's what I try to teach everybody. How do you feel right now? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're getting a false representation of peace or happiness or joy or comfort. I just want you to come back at this present moment and be in your well-being. That's all I can really tell any cellular being. It's only one root to everything. And this is where we've just taken that root and we made it into a whole bunch of definitions, but there's only one state of being, and that's the present moment. No one is guaranteed anything but this present moment. And we must always be aware. We must be mentally aware, physically aware, and emotionally aware of how this present moment is feeling inside of us, consciously.
So true. So true.
Then we always go back to our peace automatically.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, appreciate everything that you have. A lot of people don't have as much as you do. So yeah, I think you're right. Just appreciate the moment, appreciate the breeze, appreciate the sunshine. All that stuff is so easy to overlook, but it's so true. I mean, think about those things when you're there, when they're happening, and be like, wow, this is, I didn't get the whatever, but hey, the sun is shining and it feels nice. And right. I mean,
and not just think about them, think about it as you.
Right.
That's who you are. You are that peaceful nature. You are that calming and soothing breath. You are that beautiful state of being. You're the abundance. I mean, you're everything that you are out there seeking in that world. It is literally you. So just think what would happen if we just became that. The things outside of us would automatically do that for us. I mean, automatically. I mean, yeah. It's so beautiful. So just being that in which you are is the most beautiful. I mean, if you want to see beauty, just be who you are. If you want to see peace, just be who you are. If you want to know that you're the greatest thing that life has ever created, just be who you are. Don't go out and seek it in the world. Don't go out and seek it. And this is something that I had to, my mom being of an African American mindset.
Yeah.
We are taught so many things. You have to work hard. You have to. So I had a very bad complex. I had a very bad understanding about what life really meant. But somehow, since I was 5 years old, I knew that that wasn't the way things were supposed to be. I just knew it. It hurt too bad for me to need those things. Everything that you're telling me, I used to tell my mom, I would go and cry to her all the time. Mom, this is hurting me. And she would be like, this is life. And I would think, this is not life. You can't tell me this is life. You're telling me you have to have money to be happy. You have to have all these things to be happy, but there's no happiness. I never felt those things. I just never felt them. And the harder I tried, the more miserable I felt.
Right.
So it was just like everything would contradict itself. And I could see this at 5 years old. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
I literally felt like I was in this world and nobody understood me. And I couldn't understand the people. I literally felt like I was in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I just couldn't understand it. No one can teach me to understand it.
There does seem to be a theme on this show that like a lot of the people that, you know, a lot of people I think that we end up talking to, you know, have some early childhood perspective or a situation or maybe something very tragic. And then that is like ultimately what causes a shift, whether or not it's the shift occurs like right when the thing happens, or maybe it's like 20 or 30 years later, they're wondering, well, why does my life feel this way? And then they can sort of pinpoint it back to that thing. And then that's the moment that they say, I'm not doing this anymore. And so it does seem that a lot of people that are in sort of your position to be able to talk to other people, you know, they go through some sort of a transformation that's like that.
Metamorphosis.
Right.
Yeah, but my thing, my metamorphosis, it was for about 2 years I couldn't come out of my house. I was so angry at the world. I was angry because since I was 5 years old, I understood everything that I say now, but the world just does not teach us this. So I felt like I was being forced to become this suffering. I literally felt like I was forced to become this suffering because I knew better. I knew that this was not the way life was supposed to be, but this is the way they teach us. Right. So at 41 years old, I had a situation that came into my life that it made me cry out for God. And I cried out for God and I said, God, you're going to help me or I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore. I was at the point where I wanted to take my life because I just couldn't take any more of the way this world governs itself.
Right.
I mean, it's just so painful and it doesn't make any sense. And there's no healing. There's no truth. There's no comprehension. There's nothing that can get us into this beautiful state of nature that each and every one of us are guaranteed if we just understand who we are under our truth.
Right.
So that is where my metamorphosis took place. I just said, no more. I can't take this anymore. This is not how I should be living.
Yeah.
But I knew this for a long time. But as I started becoming my own doctor, my own scientist, my own biologist, everything that I knew from 5 years old just started to uncover itself. It started to just show me who I was, that I did know what I was saying, that I did know what was going on. And then I just became like a guru of life.
Right. Right.
I just became the person who God created me to be for the human body. for the
Well,
human body.
that's awesome, Raina. I mean, I'm really happy that you've gone from being in such a rough, place to where you are now, where you can be happy and obviously want to like deliver that same feeling to other people. I mean, that must be great. It must feel very fulfilling.
Yes, liberating.
How can but before we go, and thank you so much for doing this talk with me. It was
You're
a lot of
welcome.
fun. How can people, our listeners, your listeners, how can people find you? Where should they look?
They can reach me on https breath.global, or they can call me at 559-709-3185.
Okay. And it was
Breath.global is my website.
breath.global.
Yes. And they can also reach me on Fiverr. I do gigs on Fiverr for
Okay.
life coaching as well at Grace Love Internal Living Ministry of Fresno City.
Cool. Okay. Got it. Well, again, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you had a good time as well.
I did. Thank you, Adam. You're amazing at what you do.
Oh, thanks.
I feel very comfortable and welcomed.
Oh, perfect. Good. Well, I'm trying to live as internally as I can. I still have work to do.
We all are.
Yeah.
We all are.
Okay. All right. Take care, Raina.
You as well. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.